The film begins with a captivating tale of two siblings who possess extraordinary powers. But one day, they unintentionally harm some individuals in their community, not being able to control their powers. The locals see them as a threat to society and unanimously decide to eliminate them. In the dead of night, they set fire to their home and burn it to the ground, resulting in the death of their parents. Despite the tragedy, the two brothers, Samaritan and Nemesis, manage to survive. Following the tragic incident, the two brothers develop different views on humanity. Samaritan believes that protecting and saving people is the ultimate goal of life, while Nemesis becomes consumed with hatred for humanity, blaming them for the death of their parents. As a result, they become sworn enemies, and just like Batman and Joker, they go toe-to-toe on many occasions. To this end, Nemesis creates a deadly weapon, the hammer, infused with all his anger and rage to kill the formidable Samaritan. One day, during a ferocious battle between the two, an explosion occurs, and both brothers are presumed dead. They always wear masks, making it difficult to identify them, but many believe that Samaritan may have survived. The scene transitions to a young boy named Sam and his mother who is preparing to leave for work. She requests some money from her son's pocket money and instructs him to take out the trash. Despite the heavy rain pouring down, Sam goes outside to dispose of the trash. As he approaches the trash bin, he spots a symbol of Nemesis scrawled on it. However, as a big fan of Samaritan, he alters the symbol to resemble that of his beloved hero. While standing in the pouring rain, Sam sees his neighbor, Joe, who earns a living by collecting and repairing items from the trash. Joe manages the trash cans and frequently discovers new items every day. The next day, as the world is moving, Joe goes to his work as a garbage man and Sam sits in class at school. Joe discovers a broken radio and decides to keep it. Meanwhile, upon returning home, Sam finds a notice indicating that they haven't paid rent and the landlord has locked the door. He sits outside the house drawing sketches while waiting for his mother. During his wait, Sam asks Joe what's the use of a broken radio, to which he says what's the point of a broken watch. As they finish talking, one of Sam's friends named Jace approaches him and urges him to join in on stealing wire from a job site. They successfully break in and steal the wire. They make their way to a junkyard and sell the wire for $40 to a man that works for someone named Cyrus. Shortly after, Riza, one of Cyrus's accomplices, invites Sam to join in on a robbery at a superstore, where he would be responsible for distracting the store owner. Sam agrees, and they reach the store, but he doesn't know what to do as he is still a young boy. Riza gives him a packet of hot sauce and instructs him to put a spot on his forehead and cry for help. As he is doing this, the other three men steal a few items. However, the store owner is not fooled and becomes angry, forcing everyone to leave the store. Upon arriving at Cyrus's place, only chips were found in the boxes. Reza suddenly accuses Sam of being responsible for the situation by grabbing the wrong boxes. Sam demands his payment and suggests that they should have picked the right boxes in the midst of their argument. Cyrus enters the scene and is impressed by Sam's bravery at his young age. He rewards Sam with $200, half for his current task and the other half for future tasks that he would assign to him. Reza is Cyrus's subordinate, and Cyrus also discovers that Sam is a big fan of Samaritan by looking inside his book. Cyrus reveals his tattoo of the Nemesis sign on his chest, as he believes that Nemesis fought for those who needed justice, unlike Samaritan who only protected the rich. He calls Samaritan fake and Nemesis as the hero of the people. When Sam returns home with the money, he pays the rent. His mother was already scolding the owner for locking their house, but with the $200, the owner unlocks the door and they are able to go inside. Despite this, Sam becomes anxious when his mother asks about the money. He lies to her and hides the fact that he robbed someone. His mother advises him to always behave well, as she is striving hard to make a living and wants her son to follow the right path. She loves him deeply and understands that he misses his father who has passed away. At Cyrus's base, a shipment of 10 stolen explosives from an army base arrives. Cyrus instructs his group to prepare to use them. Several days later, Reza and his friends come across Sam on the road. They are angry at him because Cyrus had scolded them earlier. Sam tries to flee, but they chase him until he nearly collides with a bus. Joe, a passenger on the bus, sees Sam being pursued by 3 men. After a lengthy pursuit, they catch Sam and begin to pound him. Joe comes from behind and launches 2 men into a car window and garbage container. Reza looks at him and punches his stomach, resulting in a broken hand. Joe launches him as well and starts walking Sam home. Reza pulls out a knife and attempts to stab Joe, but he grabs the knife and smacks Reza. Sam realizes that Joe may be the Samaritan as he looks at the knife which was dented from his bare hands. After returning home from the altercation, Sam rushes to his room and pulls out his binoculars. He starts to spy on Joe. Upon observing numerous scars on Joe's back, he becomes suspicious and runs to his conspiracy theory wall, With maps and identities laid out, he identifies Joe Smith as the prime suspect for the Samaritan. Cyrus and his crew travel to a warehouse in a police van where they store hazardous equipment. Posing as law enforcement officials, Cyrus plants a bomb in a container and forces it into the guard's room, resulting in a deadly explosion. The team then proceeds to drill through a specific vault door. Once inside, they discover 2 containers containing masks of both Samaritan and Nemesis. In addition, they find a container that has the hammer created by Nemesis. As Cyrus touches the hammer, Joe senses that something is amiss. When Cyrus uses it, Joe knows for sure that something has been tampered with. Sam makes his way to the same conspiracy theorist online that says Samaritan is alive. He shows him the bent knife and says the story, but the man says he needs more evidence to convince him otherwise. Sam takes this as a challenge. Despite leaving with a disappointed expression, Sam begins to follow Joe everywhere, even sneaking into his home through the window. Joe has been aware of the young boy's constant surveillance and tries to discourage him, but Sam pays no heed. During one of his visits, Sam discovers that Joe's freezer is covered in snow and filled with ice cream and cold beverages. He also finds a scrapbook in Joe's cupboard, filled with articles and newspaper clippings about Samaritan. Sam steals the scrapbook and runs back to his home. In the following scene, Joe arrives home in the pouring rain. Reza spots him through a car window and plans to harm him, but fortunately Joe manages to evade the attack. Once inside, he senses that something is amiss and realizes that his scrapbook has been stolen. Joe rushes to Sam's house, and upon entering, he tells Sam's mother the truth. She scolds Sam and demands that he apologize. Sam returns the scrapbook and Joe departs. The next morning, Sam goes to the spot where he had earlier printed the sign of Samaritan on a garbage can. Joe approaches him and continues to converse with him. Sam expresses his belief that Joe is the Samaritan, but Joe denies it. He wishes to dispel Sam's doubts and clarify that he is simply a fan of Samaritan. As Joe walks down the street, Reza hits him badly with his car, shattering the front mirror in the process. Joe sustains severe injuries, with some of his bones cracking. Initially, they assume he is dead, and Sam shares the same belief. However, after some time, Joe begins to groan, and miraculously, his bones return to their rightful place. Sam helps him up, and together they make their way to Joe's flat. Joe immediately screams when he pours cold water, and his body steams up. He then indulges in some ice cream. He still denies being the Samaritan.
I can't believe I found Samaritan.
Wrong.
You're just a dude who gets hit by a car, gets his bones broken.
Little does he know, that's a normal day of Sylvester Stallone's life. Joe reveals that he is not an ordinary human and requires ice and cold to stay alive. His body operates on the principles of thermoregulation and heat dynamics, and it heats up whenever he gets hurt, which could be life-threatening. During their conversation, Sam mentions the death of his father and how the Samaritan once helped him. However, Joe denies that he was the one who assisted him and admits that he doesn't know Sam's father. Meanwhile, Cyrus finds himself in the heart of the city, wanting to test his blackout bombs. He tosses them into a gutter, and they explode, creating a thunderous blast that blackouts nearby places. People flock to the scene, and Cyrus summons them with a mask of Nemesis on his face and a hammer in his hand. He motivates everyone to support the narrative of Nemesis, encouraging people to take back what they have lost in the name of injustice and snatch back their power. As a result, people become highly motivated and support him by shouting out slogans of Nemesis. Joe awakens suddenly from a nightmare. He sees on the TV that a man wearing the mask of Nemesis is causing trouble. Sam and him have become close friends by this point, and Sam asks about Joe's powers and limitations as they walk. Along the way, they see people wearing replica masks of Nemesis and are looting from shops in the street. The next morning, Sam requests Joe to teach him how to fight, and Joe agrees. They plan to meet on the roof after work, where Joe wants to assess Sam's skills. Sam begins to demonstrate the hand-flipping techniques that his father taught him when he was 4. Although quite impressive, Joe recognizes that Sam is still a child and cannot be as skilled as him. After punching him once, Sam's hands become bruised, and they retreat to Joe's flat, where he gives Sam some ice to soothe his injury. During their conversation, Sam expresses his belief that Nemesis' nature is sinful and says that he wishes Nemesis never returns because he wants to spread chaos in the world. Joe gets offended by Sam's multiple questions and raises his voice, causing Sam to leave the place. As Sam is making his way home, Cyrus offers him a ride, and he accepts. However, Sam soon finds himself witnessing Cyrus murdering a police officer, leaving him terrified. While fleeing the scene, Sam encounters Reza attacking Jace. He intervenes, hitting Reza and allowing Jace to escape. As a result, Reza retaliates by smashing Sam's wrist. He goes through a crime and loot-ridden city and leaves Sam stranded near his apartment. Joe and Reza both recognize each other, and Joe rushes Sam to the hospital. Meanwhile, Reza informs his friend that the older man they hit with their car is still alive. Cyrus notices the damaged car and orders his team to retrieve the man. They act like homeless men on the street until they see Joe. They pursue him along a path, and a fight ensues. However, Joe emerges victorious, tossing his assailants into the air and evading their gunfire unharmed. As he completely annihilates the men and eats bullets like it's nothing, a man runs from behind and stabs him. It doesn't faze him one bit though as he hurls him from the ground. As a small girl witnesses Joe's skills, she asks about how he managed to defeat his opponents. This attracts the attention of a crowd, who begins to film Joe. Suddenly, a man hurls a grenade at him, but he quickly grabs the girl and leaps from the area, flipping a nearby car to shield themselves from the explosion. Joe remains focused on protecting the girl despite the explosion. The footage of Joe's heroism quickly spreads, with media outlets presenting it as proof that Samaritan has returned. Joe makes the decision to leave town. However, when Cyrus watches the video, he and his gang go to Joe's home to capture him. Upon arriving, Cyrus destroys Joe's room and realizes he left town. He catches a glimpse of Sam through his window. Reza informs Cyrus that Joe and Sam were close, prompting Cyrus to order his gang to capture Sam. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Joe waits at the train station when he notices Sam's watch. Concerned, he heads back to Sam's house to return the watch to him. However, upon arrival, he finds Tiffany crying in the kitchen, revealing that Cyrus has taken Sam. Joe becomes enraged and packs several oil barrels onto a truck. He then drives straight to Cyrus' location to confront him and rescue Sam. Cyrus plans to destroy the power plant, plunging the entire city into darkness while his gang members carry out a massive heist. However, Joe arrives at the scene just in time to intervene. Despite the guards' attempts to stop his truck, Joe runs them over and crashes into the building. Sam witnesses this and tells Cyrus that he will fail, just like Nemesis did. The thugs inside the building begin to shoot at Joe from all directions, but he expertly defeats most of them with ease. Cyrus steps forward and declares his intention to finish what Nemesis began. With all of his men surrounding Joe and Cyrus with guns, Joe tells Cyrus to release Sam. However, Cyrus refuses and strikes Joe with the hammer, causing him to trip and fall. Cyrus continues to beat Joe, who struggles to regain consciousness. Finally, Cyrus says good folks always fall, and attempts to hit Joe with the hammer once more. However, Joe manages to block the hammer and reveals that he is not the good guy, he is actually the bad guy. Both Cyrus and Sam are taken aback by this revelation. Joe explains that Samaritan died in the explosion, but Nemesis survived the explosion and had been living as Joe all along. Suddenly, the oil drums in the vehicle explode, killing many of Cyrus's men. Joe proceeds to engage in a brutal and merciless battle with Cyrus gangsters, taking them out one by one. Despite being surrounded by a large number of them, Joe remains unfazed and even causes the ceiling to collapse by breaking the pillars around him, crushing the gangsters beneath the rubble. Miraculously, Joe manages to survive and continues to make his way towards Cyrus. However, upon reaching him, he finds that Cyrus has handcuffed Sam to a broken pipe and has ordered his gangsters to plunge the entire city into darkness. As the city descends into chaos and anarchy, with the gangsters murdering innocent people, burning down buildings, and robbing banks, Cyrus dons the mask of Nemesis and roars like a beast as the whole building goes up in flames. As Joe rushes to free Sam from the broken pipe, Cyrus, who has taken the hammer, confronts Joe and the two engage in a fierce fight. The intense heat from the burning building causes Joe's heart to beat uncontrollably, giving Cyrus the upper hand in the fight. He beats Joe mercilessly and tries to push him off the building. Just as it seems that all hope is lost, Sam manages to break the pipe and hits Cyrus from behind, allowing Joe to take the hammer and wrap it around Cyrus, rendering him immobile. Joe then lifts Cyrus over his head and throws him off the building, recalling how he had let Samaritan die in the same way 50 years ago. As the building burns, Joe and Sam manage to escape just in time, bringing an end to the chaos and destruction that had been unleashed upon the city. Finally, Sam confronts Nemesis, telling him he can change and be a good guy now, but Nemesis basically tells him everybody is capable of good and evil, we all just have to choose. He disappears, leaving Sam awestruck. Sam is then reunited with his mother, but he's something of a celebrity now, with hundreds of cameras in his face. He says the story of Samaritan and Nemesis will always live on. His watch begins beeping as he lifts his head and looks into the crowd to see Joe giving him a smile and a nod. He walks away as we end this recap. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications and leave a like to help the channel.